I found your whole testing session just really interesting because you tested kind of quirky stuff that I've been in the wind tunnel once a good few years back and it was for a track. We didn't get to play around with all the cool stuff you were testing for gravel. Like you tested the reservoir down the back, you tested sunglasses on the helmet, no sunglasses, and sunglasses down the front. And unsurprisingly, for anyone who's slightly follows the aero scene, if you can close that gap in between your two pecs by putting the sunglasses or a bottle or anything in there, even stuffing your gilet down the front of it, as I did for my TT last night, it seems to be faster. When you went to testing the reservoir, why not build the reservoir into the front to close that gap off?
It's a tricky one. It's mainly comes down to comfort there. Having something on your front is a lot more obvious in terms of feeling and comfort than on your back. We do have an option to do that. So we make a cargo base layer if you want to put a bottle down your front. But as it's designed for gravel races, having a 3 kilo pack of water on your back is quite a bit more comfortable than having it pulling on your front. In terms of space as well, it's just about making a rider comfortable. Like the whole thing people usually think about is watts per kilo. The thing we think about here is watts per CDA. So if you can get your drag down for the same power, great. But if you're then doing something that's going to impact your power, that's going to throw off the numbers. So we could put something down the front that's going to be quite heavy and uncomfortable. Is that going to have an impact on the actual total power you're going to be able to put out from mechanical restrictions or comfort?
Yeah.
It might be faster in theory, but in reality, does it make you quicker? Maybe not.
And that's why I'm quite surprised. And I was chatting to a friend who works in a wind tunnel last night, and we were talking about one of the easiest wins World Tour teams can make is putting their radio in the front. I know Uno X slightly offset the radio, so it's not bang in the front in case they crash. You just don't want that impact. But having it in the front somewhat, and then you see UAE or still have the radio in the back, and it just makes no sense aerodynamically why they wouldn't move that across. But that's just a random thought more than a question, because I want to go a little bit deeper on the reservoirs, because I thought that was really interesting, because I'm getting ready for a bunch of races later in the summer. I'm going to kick off my gravel calendar in Rift, and we're going to finish out in Badlands towards the end of the year. Probably won't race with a reservoir in Rift, but I definitely will be in Badlands. How does the size of the reservoir seem to impact speed? Did you test different reservoir sizes?
Yeah, we have. It's an interesting one because sort of counterintuitively what we found is the bigger ones actually do help. When you look at it side on, it starts to make a bit more sense because you, in a gravel position, probably have your head a little bit higher, slightly higher riding position than you would in like a really aggressive road position. So head is typically above shoulders, which means that it's creating a bit of a low pressure area behind it. So the bigger pack actually helps to fill in some of that space, and you can draw like a nice clean curve from the back of the helmet down over the pack and onto the hips. A smaller reservoir, like a 1.5 litre versus a 3, sits a bit lower on the back. So you have air coming off the helmet, big void still, and then the pack. So yeah, you have a low pressure area then generated in between helmet and pack, which isn't going to be as good for drag than just filling that whole space in.
I guess this is something you probably didn't test, but the bigger pack you're saying seems to be slightly faster. But as you get through the race, you're going to be drinking that pack, and that 3 litre is going to be emptying. Does that start to change the consideration whether you go with a typical hydration vest, as opposed to an integrated like bladder?
Yeah, the misconception with the gravel suit was like it's designed with that pocket on the back to be insanely quick and much faster than a pack. The main thing we actually built it for was for comfort. So wearing a backpack for 10 hours as you're moving and it's rubbing and you've got the straps sticking into your shoulders is going to affect your comfort. And then
Yeah.
going back to that watts per
It's horrible.
CDA equation, you being uncomfortable is going to have a material impact on your performance. So making a rider as comfortable as possible without impacting CDA, great. The suit is marginally quicker than the pack itself, just because it's getting rid of a lot of messy things like straps, zips, things like this. But yeah, it's not something we tested in the tunnel. But yeah, I'm sure it will have a performance impact going from 3 liters full to drinking all of it and depleting it. But the problem then again is coming back to kind of a so what question. Like, we tested it and put it on like reels and things, and you get some answers going like, oh, so to stay fastest you just shouldn't drink then. It's like, you always have to drink. Like, the point is to reduce the amount of damage that we're doing aerodynamically, but it's all still going to be about performance. So yeah, we could test what it's like with a half drunk reservoir, but the answer is kind of like, so what then at the end of it? Like, it's not going to affect what you're going to have to do come race day.
Yeah, and it's unlikely you're going to choose to use a hydration pack in a race where you don't need a hydration pack just for the aerodynamic benefits, because races go uphill as well as flat and downhill.
Yeah.
So at different times, the equation changes from watts per CDA to watts per kilogram.
Yeah. And again, like, would I choose to ride with 3 liters of water on my back if I didn't have to? Like, it's obviously not going to be as comfortable as not having it there. So yeah, don't wear it if you don't need it. Some of our pros still choose to wear the gravel suit, even though they have access to the road race suit, because they just have got really used to it. So
Yeah.
it doesn't need the pack to be, it doesn't need a reservoir in there to be a fast suit. It's still very good standalone, and it's not loose and baggy as a pocket. It's still tight to your back.
I thought your comment about the pack and your head position was actually quite insightful, because my experience in the wind tunnel, the one time I've been there, I optimized for an individual pursuit position, but visibility on that was horrible. Like, I could see maybe 2 feet in front of me in the individual pursuit. So when I took that position and tried to use the same position for a time trial, then it's just not a safe position to only be able to see 2 feet in front of you for a time trial. The demands of gravel are obviously totally different again, where if you only have a 2-foot field of vision, you're going to hammer into craters, you're going to get caught the wrong side of little fault lines and end up crashing, and a crash is going to more than offset any aero benefits. So you've decided to give away a little bit of pure aerodynamics to create a functional head position.
Yeah, it works out quite well with the gravel suit as well. We tested it with a Aero sort of tucked head position, and then a more upright, more sustainable position. And it's actually quicker with the upright head position, which like makes sense, but it was still interesting to see that dropping your head actually didn't really help at all, because you have the pack behind you or the reservoir. So it's about optimizing the airflow onto the pack, which would be head slightly higher. So yeah, it's a happy win-win situation there. It's a more sustainable position that also happens to be 3 or 4 watts more efficient.
A quick word from today's sponsor. A few years ago, I came out of my local coffee shop after a long winter spin to find my Cafe Lock on the ground, sliced clean in half. My pride and joy bike, it was gone. Just like that, a small fortune in kit, and frankly, part of my identity as a cyclist, it disappeared in seconds. If you've ever had that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach, even imagining your bike getting stolen, wrecked, or damaged mid-travel, you know it's not just a possession. It's your freedom, it's your fitness, it's your sanity on tough weeks. That's where Bicmo comes in. Whether it's theft, damage, crashes, racing, or travel, Bicmo's got your back. Their in-house claims team makes the process fast and painless. And here's the kicker. With 50% off multi-bike cover, you can protect all your bikes and even your family or your mate's bike under the same policy. No nonsense, no surprises. But Bicmo isn't just about covering bikes. They actually care about the future of cycling itself, and that's why I've partnered with them. If you insure your bike with Bicmo today, they'll donate £10 toward trash-free trails to help clean up and protect our shared cycling spaces. So head on over to Bikmo, BIKMO.com and use the code ROADMAN to get covered, save money and support our wild spaces. All that information is in the description below.